Good morning. This is Dr. John Bennett from Neurosurgical TV. Tonight, I have the pleasure of having Shafi Ahmed, MD, a colon and rectal surgeon from London, who is involved with using virtual reality to teach neurosurgeons. And we are going to, okay, I'll turn it over to Shafi. Welcome, Shafi.
Hey, thanks very much for having me on the show, John.
Okay, I've got another program open. I guess I hear some noise. I guess if you're there, okay, it was me. It was me, and I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. Okay, Shafi, let me just ask you a few general questions before we launch into your formal presentation. And this is an informal interview. We just threw this together this morning. You're a colon rectal surgeon. How'd you get involved? Have you always been a technophile? I've always liked tech.
I guess I've always been, I guess most surgeons, John, as you know, are very much into innovation, improving their skill sets, using new devices, etc. So we've always had a passion, I guess, for modernizing your own sort of expertise. And I guess what's happened to me personally is that I've always been involved in a hospital and an institution that's always supported innovation. And that's quite important to get the support and the backing of an organization you work for. At the same time, I have my own passion and interest. And again, sorry?
Go ahead.
So, and also my colleagues, my mentor that I've had when I first became a consultant surgeon, was very supportive of these ideas. So the environment that I was working in was very conducive to doing newer things. On top of that, of course, a lot of my innovations around education and training, and I've always had a passion for that as well. And also, I happen to have key roles in teaching at the medical school as an associate dean, for example. And I've been training surgeons as a trainer, if you like, and running their system of training in London. So all of those things, I think, come together when you're sort of thinking about how I find myself today involved in innovation and education on a global level.
Now, why virtual reality? Did you just kind of keeping tabs on what's going on? You ran across this platform. You said, "Hey, that may be good to teaching surgeons what goes on in the OR."
Yes. So what I've been exercised by for a long time is the teaching as an undergraduate and postgraduate training in the actual OR itself. It's always been a dilemma I thought about long and hard. So if you think about current ways of teaching and training, they haven't really changed for a long time. And we're now of the millennial generation, and the people who now understand technology, who use a mobile phone every day, for example, who connect with people. Actually, it's all changed in terms of the actual student population and their understanding of how they can be taught and learn. That's the background, of course. And then I was still thinking about using augmented reality and virtual reality and all the technologies that are around, including telemedicine and teleproctoring, because they were all coming out at the same time. So when I first was starting the telemedicine a few years ago, that seemed to be quite successful. I then moved on to the AR platform that came out, and Google Glass was obviously the one that drove my passion and interest in the world of augmented reality. And the natural succession to that was VR. I always thought I'd be involved in all of those areas to really experiment as to what they offer in terms of teaching and training. And with that, of course, because I guess I was lucky to be at the forefront of that that drive and vision, it's helped me to shape the future of the education program. So yeah, it's been in the right place at the right time, but also have an interest in how we redesign and challenge the traditional methods of teaching.
So you're teaching to a willing audience. You get medical students that probably know a lot more about virtual reality than most older physicians, correct?
I think so. VR is still early in its infancy. They know what it is, but it's still not widely disseminated. And part of my mission is to actually place a cardboard headset into every medical student's hands, let them play around with it. That's going to be part of the mission. If VR is going to survive, it needs that kind of penetration. And so it's VR itself, although it's out there with the hardware, the content hasn't driven it hard enough. And part of my role is to drive the content, which will then hopefully move the whole business forward in terms of the VR sort of infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it your university that's behind you, or the NIH, or what organization is behind you to stimulate your activities and to stimulate your project?
Okay, so I have a tech company. I guess I'm an entrepreneur. I have a tech company called Medical Realities, and we've been working the last 2 years with a team of about 50 to 20 developers. And we're a unique set of people. We have app designers, developers. We've got people who are experts in AR and VR, in CGI animation, film production, and a bunch of clinicians. So we've created a unique team to create some of the content. That's my own private company. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that we do is based around my hospital, which is the Royal London. Mm-hmm. They're very supportive of my work in innovation and allow me to access patients, OR, and support the way I've been doing things. And also the medical school that I work in, the Advanced Medical School, which is now almost 1,000 years old, was very supportive of having the students be taught a different way. So I guess all those areas help me establish this kind of training.
Well, let me take this opportunity to introduce Federico. He's a neurosurgical resident from Italy, who's also working in education in a unique platform. Hello, Federico.
Hello, John. Thank you for having me.
Hello.
Yeah,
nice to meet you, Shafi.
Can you tell Shafi a bit about your project, Federico?
Yeah. I'm founder of Upsurgeon. It's a private company, focused on neurosurgical education. So we are trying to apply these type of technologies to our field. So we are trying to improve neurosurgical imagination in our residents and colleagues and students. So I think I love your project, and I'm very interested. I'm very interested in your project because we are doing something similar in another field. So good. Nice to meet you.
And you too, Federico.
Okay, go ahead, Shafi.
No, glad to connect. I mean, please, I'd like to hear a bit more about what you're doing. Presumably it's around AR and VR, I guess. Is that what you're doing with your project?
Yeah, not only. We started with 2D representation and neurosurgical simulation for mobile. We developed for the first time a neurosurgical simulator for mobile devices, in which you can find very accurate 3D models of neuroanatomy, and you can interact with them. And you can start a neurosurgical procedure starting from a magnetic resonance and selecting a region of interest, for example. And you start with them with this step, and you start with the skin incision, craniotomy, interaction with brain, and movements simulated with a digital microscope. So nice. This is very, in general, the beginning of our activities. We are developing, of course, for virtual reality and immersive reality. But I don't want to stall your time, so
yeah,
please.
Yeah, Shafi, could you go ahead and do your presentation of medical realities, please?
Oh, let me just do a. Let's go for here. 1 second.
Okay, this is a new tech for everybody.
Here we go. So who are the handouts? Okay.
There you go. So yes, we see it. We see it.
Lovely. Well, let's go through a presentation I gave just a month or two ago, which I think covers most of the areas that I normally talk about. As you know, I give a lot of keynote talks around the world, and really to inspire people on a global level. So if you think about the first slide, this one, where I make the statement, this is me at Exponential Medicine at Singularity University, of which I'm a faculty member, around the premise that education is a fundamental human right for everybody. Now, we all agree with the premise that should be true, but of course we know that in reality, that is restricted by two things. One is geography and one is resource. Without those two, you can't really make it free for everybody. That's been a limitation in what we've been trying to do for many years. When we look at the current technologies, which is the next slide, people talk about the concept of the fourth industrial revolution, of course, and it's the way that in medicine, all these technologies like AR, like VR, robotics, etc., are going to work together to shape the future of healthcare, and that's quite exciting. The next slide is around my own hospital, Barts. This is an old hospital. As you can see, we were founded in 1123. So that takes us back to the history of surgery and how we need to challenge iterations of teaching and training. If you go back to the same time that our hospital was built, this gentleman was actually producing the first textbook of surgery called the Liber Theorici. So that was the only book that we had for about 600 years, just written text, which is what we've been used to for so long. And obviously, Al-Zarawi, who wrote the book, is often called the father of modern surgery. When I look at surgery itself, I'm sure Federico will agree. We look at this picture of a surgeon in the middle of the operating theatre, John being in the centre of stage and teaching people up in the theatre and the auditorium. But actually, the learning behind this is actually rather poor, because people at the back of that room can't do anything at all. And often we disenfranchise students and trainees because of the sheer numbers and volume of people in theatre. And if you look at my own hospital in about 50 years ago, this is the same story. So this is where we are still at this stage. So I'll play this video for you. I may not play. 1 second. Yeah. Oh, it's on the screen there. 1 sec. Here we go. Let's go down that. So we go to the next stage. This one here. Oops. Hopefully it'll play. Yeah, there. Let's just play that. So you love this bit. It's my depiction of the Star Wars theme, John. And what it is showing that basically that we're teaching in the medical school and in the OR by people being hanging around, just learning by osmosis diffusion. And we have a huge global problem in the world where 5 billion people, that's 2/3, do not have access to safe and affordable surgery, which is highlighted by the Lancet Commission, which is obviously came out 2.5 years ago. So my reckoning is, how do we overcome some of that, these issues around access? So you look at the areas that are poorly served, and John, you know better than I do, of course, with the work you do in neurosurgery. These are the areas that we need to cover, the ones in red and dark red. Going on from that, I often say in my conferences that doctors generally and healthcare professionals are steeped in dogma and tradition. And I think you can overcome that by using technology and therefore overcoming what I call the mediocrity of healthcare. And we're helped, of course, by the fact that all these technologies now, under an exponential growth, computers are doubling their power every 18 months, for example. And also, not only are the computers being increased in capacity, but actually we're being helped by connecting people. Now, John, you mentioned earlier, yesterday, about the use of WhatsApp and your mobile phone and all that sort of thing. And he's right, it's about having connections around the globe. So Google now putting in, I'm not sure you've seen this, the Project Loon, which is like balloons in the cloud to give you high-speed Wi-Fi access around the globe. Facebook are putting drones in, similarly, which are going to also give Wi-Fi access to the globe, and they launched the second one earlier this year. This is a plane, a drone that's got the wingspan of 737, running on solar panels to give parts of the world high-speed access. And the cable from Microsoft and Facebook is now being positioned under the water in North Atlantic, again to provide this connectivity. And this is all going to be around AR and VR in the future, okay? So if you get back to my story a couple of years ago, John, you probably haven't seen this. This is I used a Google Glass for the first time in May 2014, and I did a global transmission of a live operation to trainees across the world. And on that one day, They could stream, they could watch my streamed operation on their mobile phone, on their laptops, iPads, whatever. And they could also interact. They could actually ask questions, right? Type them in onto a text message, which would come up on my glass at the same time. I could teach them in real time. And on that day, I taught 14,000 people across the globe on a single day. And you can see the penetration of the market using a simple wearable technology. And again, it's satisfying the problems we have with connections. We created a whole module around virtual medics, which is one of my other companies, around virtual learning, where you connect people on a chat box around the globe. They can do peer-to-peer learning. And these are the views of the operation. These are the views of the surgeon, the assistant operating. This is a carotid endarterectomy. And you can see the great views that people have across the globe. I was lucky enough to do the same thing and teach this man, John. You may not know who he is. This is John Scully, who's the CEO of Apple. Who's a guy who sacked Steve Jobs that you've all heard of. But he's a man who's got a mobile phone company who wants to connect the world. And I taught this 70-year-old man who was CEO of Apple in the past to do a simple live operation across the globe, just to show that actually it's about connecting people. If you look at how we can train the future, it's about telementoring, teleproctoring, and lots of things are coming out using augmented reality. This is the Stultz version of telementoring. We then have another version here, and then the Omnitivity again, all using simple iPads, computers to connect people and using overlays to train people. I've used this system with a company called AMA, and this is me teaching my trainee using Google Glass, for example. And we can see here is the fact that he's got the Google Glass headset on, transmitting just via that itself. And I'm somewhere else teaching him, overlaying information on a mobile phone like this, for example. And on that, you can actually put pictures, drawings, connect people, talk to them, etc. So this is a simple method using a mobile phone and wearable tech to teach people. And then move on to next level, which I think is social media. And so, John, I have a huge, I guess, interest in social media and its use in surgical training, interesting enough. So you mentioned Facebook Live the other day. Actually, I use Facebook Live to teach people. I did a live operation on Facebook in Bangladesh, for example. This was a right hemiclectomy back in January this year, where about 10,000 surgeons turned up on my Facebook Live, and you're teaching them in real time using a simple free app that connects about 2 billion people on a monthly basis, a huge amount of penetration. You may have seen the work I did around Snapchat, which I think is quite a powerful medium. And also remember, the amount of people using Snapchat run to the order of about 200 million people per day. And these are all young people, John, people the age of 17 and 25, who want to access information in different ways. So I did the world's first Snapchat operation, which you may have seen. It was a hernia operation in 10-second clips to see whether we can train people in short segments, that structured training, but using a social media platform. And the impact was incredible. A lot of my work does get covered in media, John, but this one was particularly viral in the sense that Time magazine covered the story. They're really interested in hearing about using social media to access training and healthcare. And I must say, one of the things that sort of most surprised me, John, with that whole Snapchat surgery was the fact not only did it make it in Time magazine and other magazines around the world, but actually it was quite disruptive. And Cosmopolitan, a woman's magazine of fashion, covered the story. And you could actually watch the operation live in a health and beauty magazine, which is interesting in itself, right? So it's that sort of disruption that these technologies take place. Of course, I have some famous friends. Ashton Kutcher, he tweeted my work on Facebook, really liked what I was doing, because he thought it was a good way of teaching people. If you look at the demographics of that one operation using social media, John, it had 2 million views, over 100,000 downloads in 24 hours, and each time I operate now, when I do Snapchat operation, I have about 5,000 students who engage and learn. And I would show you a picture. This is of the people that learn, for example, with me, all around the globe. And interestingly, the other day I did an operation and I asked the students, where are you from? Tell me a bit about yourself on Snapchat. And one of them, which really stuck to mind, they're all from around the world, every country you can think of. One of them turned around and said, oh, my name is Ella, and I'm actually watching you and learning from you from one of the islands called the Marinas Islands, and I'm a medical student. So I hadn't heard of this island before. I looked it up. This is a tiny dot in the Pacific Ocean near the Mariana Trench, with a population of about 20,000 people. And she's a medical student there, and she was connecting with me via social media and learning from someone in the UK. And that really showed you the power of this whole thing. When we looked at the impact of that, 56 million people were tweeting or retweeting in about a month or so. So it showed the huge impact of simple surgery around the globe. And this is my friend Daniel Kraft, who we often share things with. And what about Twitter, Johns? Well, Twitter is obviously another thing I'm interested in. And I was lucky enough to be curating the NHS account in March for the whole of NHS, our health service. And I did a live Twitter operation. You can show a bit of it here in tweets. I demonstrated that we could teach people using tweets across 24 hours. And this is the live operation we carried out on that week that I was curating the NHS. And this was showing, and the amount of impact we had was incredible. This went viral. People were engaged because, again, it's a free platform, lots of interest in education across not just patients and trainees, but also the public and everybody else. It was just showcasing the health service was much more complex than a single surgeon. It's about the teamwork around it that creates this safe mechanism of an operating theatre. So then we'll look at VR. A lot of the stuff that I've shown you just so far is AR on social media. Last year, we did the world's first virtuality operation, which recorded in 360. And we literally made a health service. We bought some headsets. This is our hospital, Bart's Health. They bought some headsets for me to give to all the people in the hospital. We created an app, for example, called Medical Realities, which allows you to stream live on the 360 video. And this was just accessing the information here. It's literally 2 clicks on the VR headset, on the app and the phone, that allow you to access my operating theatre in real time. And so it's the first time anyone demonstrated this whole idea. And this was it. This operation we did last year. And of course, if you look at the impact of that, John, 55,000 people in 142 countries, 200,000 downloads on YouTube, and about 5 million tweets in that 24-hour period. And actually, this is a video. This is just like a demonstration. I'll play that for you.
Into a global virtual reality experience. The idea is to allow medical students and others to stand in the shoes of an experienced surgeon. It's just the start of more technology making its way into the OR to educate others. This camera hovers high above the operating table at the Royal London Hospital, bringing the images of surgery to places far beyond the OR. It's the world's first operation to be streamed live in 360-degree video via a company called Medical Realities. Dr. Shafi Ahmed hopes it'll transform medical training worldwide.
Well, I think in the past we've done 2D videos, which are readily available. So people around the world using low-cost technology with a Google Cardboard or a headset and a smartphone and app to access live operations and training.
With students all over the whole world watching, the operation begins.
Okay, we're live.
The surgery to remove a tumor in the colon may be routine, but for those watching, it's anything but. Students using VR headsets and smartphones can view in any direction and zoom in on the operating theater. It's live. They can even ask questions.
I found it really great because I've been in theatres before, and it's often really difficult to have a good view of what's going on. So often you're pushed to the background and you can't see anything.
Dr. Ahmed believes this technology, giving others the experience of what it's really like to be in the OR, is just the beginning.
In time there'll be haptic feedback, you'll be wearing gloves, for example, or bodysuits. You can touch, feel things in the virtual world. And ultimately, imagine the time we have a virtual surgeon. We pop into a virtual theatre, a virtual patient, virtual instruments, into a virtual operation before ever going to operating theatre fully. And that learning experience will be vital. It's the most immersive simulation we can think of. So if we get the next slide, we'll show you what we're doing at the moment. And this is developing haptic feedback. And this is the glove that we're creating now with motion sensors and tactile feedback that allow you to essentially, here we go, yeah. So what that allows you to do is feel touch, temperature, based on a parameter on the iPhone or the iPad, and relay that information to you in real time. And that's becoming smaller and smaller as we speak in terms of having a simple hand glove, if you like. This is my team for Medical Realities. We're a team of about 15 developers and clinicians, and we've been creating the world's first VR content for learning in this environment here. And this, I should play this video. So at the moment you can download an app called Medical Realities on any device. We're device agnostic, iOS, Android, Google VR, Gear VR, and Google Daydream. We create CG animation, and we have immersive operatings going on as well in the middle of all that. There's learning modules. It's the first content provider in surgery in VR. And you just interrupt the whole thing. You can go through each of those menus, and then you can go into the CGI animation. The gallbladder is situated in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen. Its immediate relation, either due to stasis. And we'll just go forward that a little bit. And then we go to the operating theatre in 360, which we recorded.
Certainly dissection of the bluntest variety.
So having put the main umbilical trocar and port in, we're now going to touch the gas, insufflate the abdomen to a preset pressure of 14 millimeters of mercury.
As you see, it's all interactive, and it's all about immersive learning. And then, of course, the next thing is about how do you, we talk a bit about being remote telemedicine. We talk about then in VR, bring the person to you. What about actually same place the other person? So I use things like now the beam system now, John, to spend time in the hospital, go to the wards, MDT, ward rounds, using a device like this, for example, okay? And I'm commonplace in that area.
Hi, Simon. Thank you, Simon. This is going to Peter 2.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you doing? I'm good.
Yes.
It's amazing how quickly it becomes normality. And virtual reality is going to be where we connect with people now in the virtual space. And this is the type of thing that people are creating now. So you can have your own avatars, your own learning in that environment, for example, with inward sensors and monitors and things, so that you can mimic your own social expressions, like so. And it just move around like you, okay? So you can do all that stuff, and obviously then that creates a whole volume of what's called holographics and holoportation. And this is the kind of things, so let's play this one actually. This is the kind of things that Microsoft are doing, of course, the HoloLens, where you can actually transport yourself in real time, another place, move around that area, teach people if you want to, converse with people, have an area that you can just transport yourself, similar to Star Trek. Next thing we'll do is this is me creating my own photogrammetry picture. It's my own avatar in 360 for application on my own model. We're then going to create images around that with, this is what we've created with that. And that's like me in VR. So that we'll add facial expressions to that, AI interface. So we'll start talking like me in the future. And that will become your first interface for healthcare. So really that's about it, I guess, John, in terms of my presentation, to cover a lot of what I've been doing. Yeah.
Well, Shafi, I tell you, that's a lot of things we could talk about. We could talk about things for, I think, for hours. You've said so much. I had no idea you did so much. Some of the things that crossed my mind is, how did I miss talking to you? We had a conference on Google Glass in medicine a couple of years ago in Indianapolis. I'm sorry I missed you for that. But,
don't worry, I don't hold grudges. It's okay, John.
Yeah, well, I'll send you the link for the conferences we did. We did 2 days of conferences in Google Glass and medicine. I'm sorry I missed you, but there are so many things we can talk about. Federico, do you have any questions or comments for Shafi? You got to unmute. You got to unmute, Federico. A lot of people forget that. Unmute. There you go.
Yes, I did it for the quality. Thank you, Shafi, for your nice presentation. Very interesting. I am impressed of the engagement that you are able to create with these technologies in your country, and not only. I have a question. You just showed a slide concerning the global health, the global surgery, and the Lancet Commission. Yeah. So, which is the way you imagine your idea, your technology in these countries, for example? Which is the application way, for example?
So I think, especially for them to access the education for free, okay? It's for them to think about people in other parts of the world. There's two elements. One is further training, because most surgeons around the world want to improve their standards and skill sets, okay? There's existing surgeons who will have that same capacity to learn and provide the best healthcare. They can't all leave their country because of money. Some are actually in war-torn zones. They can't leave because of political pressures, okay? And I did a lot of work internationally in a lot of countries across the globe. And by doing this with using technology, you are helping overcome some of the hurdles and barriers to learning in terms of cost, expense. So there's no reason why people from there can't learn from the very best surgeon at Harvard, for example, or in Italy, wherever they are. And that empowers them. That's the first thing. The secondly is then to make it cheap and affordable enough. And I think the mobile phone has to be the way forward, because if you add hardware of any shape or description, that becomes a barrier in itself. So you have to use mobile technology, which is what you're doing as well, which I agree with, because that's where you penetrate the market and make it more equitable. And yeah, within 2 to 5 years, there'll be a mobile phone virtually in every single pocket in the world, for example. Not quite there yet, but it's almost ubiquitous. So then, of course, it's how do you then create learning going forward? And I think we got to, the bigger picture is redesign a medical curriculum. You don't need 5 years to train in the future, Federico. It's nonsense, all right? We've assumed 5 years is what we do for a long time. A lot of these places don't have the ability to train for 5 years. So you shorten everything, you work out a different way of learning and teaching. Because, and the other thing I think that needs to be disrupted is, do you need a surgeon to drain an abscess, for example? Okay? Do you need 5 years of experience plus 10 years of postgrad experience to go and drain an abscess? Yeah? It makes no sense. But these are the kind of things you have to have a discussion around, how you overcome some of the hurdles. It is about scaling up. And the thing I'm trying to share with people is saying that your knowledge is precious and it's worth sharing, not with one person or two persons, but as to many as possible. And that way you teach people on a global scale. Many people can reach that. And that's my message, I guess. Because if you have to train, if we have to get another 2 million or so surgeons by today to make it equitable, you either got to shorten the training, you have to teach all of them together, or something else. You have to do something on a different scale. It can't be what we're doing at the moment, which is far too restrictive. And that's, I guess, what I'm trying to understand about how we manage that.
Well, you know, Shafi, I'll have to comment. We both have similar goals, because I'm going to Nepal to work with a big neurosurgeon, Ip Cherian, who's essentially trying to do what you're doing, is reach the outlying surgeons that are they're unable to get to city centers to go to conferences, and they can do so remotely using the mobile devices or this technology of Google Hangouts. And that's what he really hopes to penetrate the neurosurgical base in Asia, because he's the head of education of the Asian Congress of Neurosurgeons, and I'm sure he'll be looking forward to working with you to bring this type of technology to the outlying neurosurgeons of Asia and the world, essentially.
Yeah.
So we look forward to working with you doing that.
Yeah, and I think he has the same ideas using technology in the same way. So yeah, and I guess, I mean, he's in Nepal, which obviously is a little more remote than things. And actually, that's the kind of thing. It's about reverse engineering as well. We always assume is that we have to teach other people from the Western American US, but actually, there's a lot to learn from other healthcare systems. This is how we connect. So, for example, I guess sometimes we're a bit condescending, in the sense that we think we know what's right, what's best, etc. But actually, if you go to India, they run a big healthcare system with millions of people, and they manage to make it efficient in terms of the expectations, the number of operations they do per day. It's amazing. They get through a whole volume of work that we struggle with. So a lot to learn about efficiency and healthcare system in a big population, because at the moment around the world, remember, John, we're all suffering with a lack of resources in healthcare, and how to make it better, more efficient using the same resource. There's no more money going into the world, or no more money going to health systems. So actually learning from places like India, Bangladesh, China, places like that is really useful, I find. So it's a bit of reverse learning as well.
Well, you know, you don't have to accept all the new things that are happening with technology, because I think you certainly can communicate the standard of care. It's a matter of communication about what that certain neurosurgeon in Uzbekistan is doing. Maybe he's doing good things and he wants to show what he's doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be new tools and new stuff he's showing. He could be showing essentially the standard of care, or what works for him in Uzbekistan or Turkestan or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a question of communication tools, not necessarily adaptation of new devices.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
may I ask you something? Which is the way to access your technology? For example, I am a user or interested in your field. Which is the way?
So first of all, the apps is downloadable on the Android Play Store, on iOS, on Samsung Gear VR and Google Daydream. All the platforms were available, and you can download the app called Medical Realities Platform today. It's a free platform. We've got 3 or 4 modules already. Another 15 are going live next month. Yeah.
Okay.
All you need is a Google Cardboard or a headset.
Shafi, this is the type of device that one has to purchase, right?
Yeah. All you have to buy is just a headset. It could be as simple as Google Cardboard with a clicker.
Yeah, this is very inexpensive. It's like $20, I think.
No, $5.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
$5.
And then
and the more expensive ones are about $50 in terms of the Gear VR, which is better quality. But yeah, so it's all, and that's the reason why we chose this method. We do have the tethered device. We do have the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive and HoloLens. They're quite expensive. And we're doing more work with those on a different level. But that's not going to be democratic. That's expensive and not quite ready for the market. That's more for institutions, etc. And we've got a whole model around institutional-based learning and teaching using the more expensive devices and the high quality. But for us, the actual market is B2C, which is giving every medical student and trainee access to education, yeah, using VR.
And you can televise that from the OR to the internet, so essentially to the world.
Yeah, we can go live. So we've got live. So we've got 2. One is the platform, which is all from the cloud, previous operations recorded. We also have a live version, which is when we do a live operation, we go live. So mixture of both.
Okay.
Shafi, is there any other company or in your country doing something like this? Idea, for example, application of other digital?
No, not like this. People using a bit. So the problem is, of course, a lot of people have aspiration. They've got ideas, but actually making a product work and put it to market is much more difficult, of course, right? And we're the first in the world to have a VR immersive learning tool that's out into the market across all platforms. Others are working on AR. Some are working on some VR, but very limited. If you see our platform, Federico, we thought long and hard about where a 360 video stands. On its own, it's not enough. On its own, it's just a wow factor and an operation. It's not enough. You have to put it into a learning environment to create something unique. You have to add CGI animation, anatomy. You have to have the whole thing from start to finish for VR to be useful. And that's what I've been thinking about the last 2 years, not just about the 360 component. But there are some other companies now working on HoloLens, whatever, but no one's really gone to market with it at the moment and created content for everybody to use.
And are you working on 3D modeling also?
Yeah, so we're working on the whole of the avatars and creating images, photoreal images. So remember VR at the moment, if you add CGI, it's not realistic, it's a bit cartoonish, and people don't take it seriously because the animation is not good enough, right? So we're working on photoreal images so that it replaces you and I, and people look like us. And that's the bit that we're doing next, because yeah, once you've done that, it becomes much more real. You create a real environment with real things inside it, etc. And that's what's missing. But that's going to take, so we've got a whole film production team working on that to create the right sort of level of interaction and stuff. So yeah, that's our next level. And we're also working on haptics in the background. So all three combined, your photoreal images, the haptics, the VR environment, the platform and the engine, all work at the end of 2 to 5 years to create some perfect simulation, yeah?
Congratulations.
Hey, thank you. Not yet. When we actually finally do it, you can crash.
But I love the spirit, so I love the idea.
Yeah, that's
the motivation is the same.
Well, Shafi, how long do you think we are from you doing your hospital rounds with the hologram?
Oh, well, in a few weeks' time, we're doing an experiment where, and I can tell you right now that we're working with a company in the US we're going to do the world's first sort of hologram connection. So what I'm going to be doing is doing the operation, put the HoloLens on, and I'll be calling a colleague or two around the world who will be in the same virtual space with me. We'll connect, we'll talk, we'll have the avatars, we'll be walking around the same room together, and we'll be sharing X-ray scans, talking, and that's what we're going to do as a demonstration next couple of weeks. And by November, we'll have the whole working model where you can actually, in that video you saw someone going to another person's environment, into their room, walking around, seeing what's in there, peering over their shoulders, giving advice. We're going to be doing that the next 2 months.
Wow. Well, exciting stuff happening in medicine. I wish I was a kid again. Oh, yeah. Yeah, any more remarks before we close up, Federico?
No, thank you, John.
Okay, Shafi, thanks for taking the time from your busy schedule, and we'll be in touch for you to teach the neurosurgical residents how to use this platform.
I'll be delighted to. No.
So stick around. I'm just going to end the televised part, and thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.